tracks to add to the wall full of plaques, hanging up in the office and back of my house like trophies. Did y'all think I'm a limito freeze? Oh please, you better bow down on both knees. Who you think taught you to smoke trees? Who you think brought you to ODs, Easy E's, Ice Cubes and DOCs? The Snoop Deal double G's in the group that said motherfuck the police. Gave you a tape full of dope beats to bump when you scroll through in your hood. And when your album sales wasn't doing too good, who's the doctor that told you to go see? Y'all better listen up closely. All you bitches that said that I turn pop or the firm flop, y'all are the reason that Dre ain't been getting no sleep. So fuck y'all, all of y'all. If y'all don't like me, blow me. Y'all gon' keep fucking around with me and turn me back to the old me. Nowadays everybody wanna talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. It's a bunch of gibberish and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre. Nowadays everybody wanna talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. It's a bunch of gibberish and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre. So when do you say to somebody you hate? Ready when trying to bring trouble your way? Wanna resolve things in a bloody way? Then study a tape of NWA. One day I was walking by with a Walkman on when I called a guy, give me an awkward eye, and I strangled him off in the parking lot with his crocodile. I don't give a fuck if it's dark or not. I'm harder than me trying to park a Dodge when I'm drunk as fuck. Right next to a humongous truck in a 2-car garage. Hopping out with 2 broken legs trying to walk it off. Fuck you too, bitch, call the cops. I'ma kill you and loud ass motherfucking barking dogs. And when the cops came through, me and Dre stood next to a burnt down house with a can full of gas and a handful of matches. It still weren't found out. Right here. So from here on out, it's a chronic too. Starting today, tomorrow's a new. But I'm still local enough to choke you to death with a Charleston Chew. Slim Shady, hotter than us and the twin babies. In a Mercedes Benz with the windows up, but the temp goes up to the mid-80s. Calling men ladies. Sorry, doc, but I've been crazy. There's no way that you can't save me. It's okay, go with Tim Haley. Nowadays everybody wanna talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. It's a bunch of gibberish and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre. Nowadays everybody wanna talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. It's a bunch of gibberish and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre. If it was up to me, you motherfuckers would stop coming up to me with your hands out looking up to me like you want something free. When my last CD was out, you weren't bumping me, but now that I got this little company, everybody wanna come to me like it was some disease, but you won't get a crumb from me, cause I'm from the streets of... I told them all them little gangsters who you think help mold them all. They wanna run around talking about guns like I ain't got none. What you think I sold them all cause I stay well off? Now all I get is hate mail all day saying Dre fell off. What, cause I've been in the lab with the pen and the pad trying to get this damn label off? I ain't having that. It's the millennium of aftermath. It ain't gonna be nothing after that. So give me one more platinum black and fuck rap, you can have it back. So where's all the mad rappers at? It's like the jungle in this habitat. And all you savage cats know that I was scrap my gas where you were cuddling the cabbage patch. Nowadays everybody wanna talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. It's a bunch of gibberish and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre. Nowadays everybody wanna talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. It's a bunch of gibberish and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre.
Hey, and we're live. Welcome to the show, Canna-heads ND, Season 2, Episode 15. It's your once-a-week podcast and the latest in cannabis local and national news. Every Sunday at around 7:30 p.m. Typically, we go for about an hour to an hour and a half. We actually have a very interesting show this time. This one is going to have an actual exclusive, as in... I have found a piece of news that has not been reported on in the world of cannabis. So, yeah.
We're going to talk about it.
Yeah. But yeah, my name is Phil.
I'm Anthony.
And yeah, welcome back to the show, everybody. If you like newsy type shows, KRFF, Radio Free Fargo, on 95.9 on Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. with Greg Wilson. You can go on radiofreefargo.org to listen live when it's happening. And about an hour later, it's on all the podcasting platforms. And then the next day, it's on the YouTube channel that you're watching this on. So, yeah, make sure to check him out. He does really, really good work. So, yeah. My framing is way off. That's a little bit better. So, yeah. As far as what happened last week, we were talking about age gates and all of that stuff. Happy to report all the age gates have been removed. it only took a shitload of work, a shitload of appeals, talking to a network manager for a network that we are not a part of, but totally a cool dude. I can't really shout him out, but totally cool. He, let's just say they really like full screens. So, yeah. We're not a part of the network. We may have a ability to be on it later, but I don't think we're going to do that. Simply because A, we're not monetized. We're not planning on being monetized, at least for the near future that I know of, at least. And when it comes to MCNs, if you want their help, usually, you have to give them a part of your AdSense revenue, and that's not something that we're going to be doing. So, yeah, but still totally helps me out, and it's actually helped me out many, many times. So, yeah. All right, let's go into the quick and small light stories. The feds have cracked down, specifically the FTC has cracked down on deceptively marketed CBD products. The Federal Trade Commission announced on Thursday that it launched a full law enforcement crackdown on deceptive claims made by CBD products. Some are a little bit odd, but Operation CB Descent, except I think, or no, CB Deceit, Operation CB Deceit, because that is the most, yeah, all right. They're mandating that the firms and personnel associated with the companies to stop making a wide range of scientifically unsupported claims about their products and their ability to treat medical conditions. The companies that were targeted in the new action are Bionatral Health, Epic House LLC, which is First Class Herbalist CBD, CBD Meds, Hemp Me CBD, Reef Industries, and Steve's Distributing LLC. So if you have any of their products, to be honest, if they're making these types of claims in the first place, you probably shouldn't buy from them. Specifically because if they're making these types of claims without any kind of scientific backing, they're probably not doing all the other things that's usually a good thing in CBD world, as in testing their products or, quality control of any type whatsoever. They're just more in it for the money. So those are the companies. The FDA has also warned and sued other companies about the claims related to CBD. And the claims that they have made come from multiple sclerosis, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, HIV and AIDS, and arthritis. Now, some of these, yes, they do have, while it's scientifically proven but not directly linked type of a situation. So like HIV and AIDS is usually with THC. It helps with, and also cancer, helps with eating and pain disorders and everything like that comes from those diseases, and arthritis as well. So they do have possible scientific connections, but they're not direct. And when it comes to...
They're not FDA evaluated.
Yeah.
In order to be able to make that claim that they can treat. And I've never been anywhere that I've purchased CBD or kratom. Actually, like, you can't say that this will treat or this will help anxiety or this will help, pain or whatever. They can say it may.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing is, in kratom world specifically with that one, FDA will take action almost immediately when it comes to that type of stuff, when you're making those types of claims. And not only is that a bad thing for the company, it's also a bad thing for the industry as a whole, because you're making the entire industry look like, we're some sort of like hippies or some shit trying to like solve a problem or whatever. So that's kind of where that comes from. Hopefully, I'm really kind of hoping that at least the companies that are making these, honestly, I'd rather they just close. Because if you've done this and you've been warned before, because a lot of these, the FDA had previously warned and sued for these types of claims. If you're not paying attention to the industry in that way, you probably shouldn't be in business regarding that. Because while you may have made this mistake and you may have just gotten a bad letter in the mail or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're going to stop. And the fact that it's happened before, and these types of claims happened before, and it might not even happen to your company, but it's been made news. There's been a couple of stories, we even talked about it, with the FDA making these claims, or making these suits and the warning letters. If you aren't paying attention to that, you're probably not paying attention to your product as a whole. And you're probably just in it for the money. And if you're just in it for the money, go fuck yourself. So, yeah, these are, yeah. If you're making these types of claims, just don't. Not good. And, yeah, so that is the CBD thing. Washington State is also talking, there's a bill. This is based on a previous bill that was introduced and kind of failed. This one's a bipartisan bill that happened late last week that would allow adults 21 or older to grow up to 6 cannabis plants and keep any marijuana produced by those plants. So this wouldn't be a sales type of thing. This would be a home grow for home use. The measure would allow anybody of 21 or older to grow up to 6 plants per person, but no single household can have more than 15 plants, which is weird because last I checked, there is no way to get 15 from 6 plus 6 plus 6. You can get 12, but then you're about 3 short. So, yeah, that's the total there. They would need to be clearly marked with the person's name, the address, the date of birth, and when they were planted. You won't need to register if this passes. You won't need to register to obtain a state license or anything like that. But medical patients do have a home grow option in Washington State, and they have to be registered. So I'm wondering if this could be something that could probably be a meet in the middle type of thing. Since medical patients have to, why shouldn't, recreational users be? Landlords would also be able to forbid renters or leasers from growing the plant on the property, but they would also, the plant also has to be out of public view, which is pretty common sense. And if it isn't common sense to you, then you probably don't know what the cost of that plant could be and how much in danger that plant is to being in public view. And once harvested, the marijuana would need to be labeled with the grower's name, address, date of birth, planting and harvest dates. And containers less than an ounce, though, would be exempt from that. It does set a limit on the amount of products that a home grow could produce. So you would be able to have up to 18 ounces of infused products in solid form, so edibles, 72 ounces of infused products in liquid form, so I don't know, like those little shot things, and 7 grams of concentrate. So irrespective of how you got there, those are the limits. So if you have extra leftovers, which, I don't know, 6... Oh yeah, no, if you have 72 ounces of infused... Well, that's the final product, too. Yeah, depends on how much you get out of or how many plants you grow. If you're growing 6, you're going to have leftovers, but... or I guess if you make a lighter concentrate. Either way, those would be the limits on the produced items. Washington lawmakers have been pretty skeptical about this. It would also... The argument that the home grow argument, the biggest one is, well, we do have medical, and we do have recreational, so why do they need to grow it in their home? That would kind of bypass the whole need to go to a store type of thing. So they basically see that, A, that's going to diminish the tax revenue on the state, or to the state, So like you don't have to go to a dispensary anymore. You can just grow it at home. And also it would be able to help the illicit market, which will still be a thing, even if the states legalize, it's still going to be a thing, because you're limiting at 21, and if alcohol is anything to go by, people still drink underage, so that's a thing. So that's like the biggest thing as far as home grow, and I think in Washington State that argument could be valid. Reason being is, well, I don't know the entire state of Washington, but it's a pretty dense population. So like the amount of cities between each city and the options to purchase is a lot more closer together. So it's not like, you know, if you're a farmer out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere like North Dakota, for instance, driving to pick up would be like a half an hour, 45-minute trip one way type of thing. It would be a lot harder, so then you throw some snow into the mix, and then you basically aren't really able to do that. So that type of a situation is kind of the reason why home grow in North Dakota makes a lot of sense. Just because, like, even during the COVID pandemic, we saw Fargo, for instance, being the, there was a dispensary in Fargo that closed down, and it pretty much made everybody who had medical have to drive to Grand Forks and the surrounding area. And because of that, during a pandemic, while you're driving in a car, you're still stopping for gas and all that stuff. So the possibility of spread is a lot higher there. So it makes a lot more sense in North Dakota, but in Washington, I can see that being at least a good proving ground that home grow actually has a place. So hopefully it passes. I don't think it will, but yeah. The other thing that they went on to say is most states with legal marijuana also have a home cultivation option in one form or another, but it's kind of all over the place. And so they've mentioned, Illinois and New Jersey don't have home grow provisions, and I think there was a story about New Jersey possibly passing something for it, but
yeah, I sent that to you earlier.
Oh, it's in the chat?
Discord, I believe.
Oh, Discord. Yeah. That's where I heard it. Okay. Yeah. So, there's a possibility of it passing. Where is it going?
Let me look real quick.
Let's see here. Put pen and paper on a bill that legalizes cannabis.
I didn't see anything about growing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, New Jersey would be an interesting one, because I think New Jersey is also a little bit, while it's not like super spread out, there are like distances between major cities. But yeah, New Jersey, I guess, looks like is passing, or at least is signing it into law. So that's good.
That's super good.
Right. And then we also, again, another thing, let me preface this. Cannabis in the news, there's a lot of stories. Like, if we go to Marijuana Moment right now, there's a lot of stuff. Marijuana Moment, Leafly, and all of those are pretty much the main sources, but they kind of have the same writers. And while some of it's interesting, it's not really something that commentary is easy to do, or at least to have a stance of some sort that might differ from the general norm stance. That's what I usually try to do. Not to say that every single take I have is nuclear, but that's kind of the reason why we kind of jump cannabis into like national politics. It seems to be a thing that actually a lot of people like. It's also been a very popular driving force for views on the channel. So that's kind of a bigger one that I've been doing. But the stimulus bill has, as of a couple hours ago, actually, it barely made it. So just to recap, Friday was the deadline for the Senate to have a spending bill, and we'll go into here a little bit why spending and stimulus is in one package. But they had the stimulus bill. They didn't make that, so they passed a 2-day resolution to basically like tell the rest of the people in the government the check is in the mail for a couple days type of deal. So they pushed it off until Sunday, and at the last freaking second, they had come to an agreement. That's not to say it passed. It's just an agreement. It's not public, at least as of about an hour ago when I checked, but it might be public now. Either way, I'm just kind of based on the notes that I have here. But there is a resolution that went through, I believe, Sunday night, so it's probably has gone through by now, hopefully. But that will be extending it for another day so that they can actually, go through the process, the debate, and the vote on Senate floor. So they have come up to an agreement. They announced that it is going to be approximately $900 billion on economic relief. The stimulus package includes $600 per person as far as direct payments. So the size of the benefit would be reducing after $75,000, similar to CARES, but this one includes children. So I believe in the CARES Act, it was $12,000 to any taxpayer, and I think they did have a dependent.
Yeah, it was $1,200. Was it $600 for children or $500 last time?
I think $600. Sounds about right.
Yeah, $500.
$500.
So $1,200 per taxpaying adult, and then $500 per dependent.
Yeah. So this one is $600 if you're an adult or a child, or at least claimed on taxes. It's $600. So everybody, like, if you're at a household and then you have like your kid on your taxes, it'd be $600 each. Congress will also be extending the federal unemployment benefits at the last fucking second, because those expire on Christmas, which is going to be $300 per week. So that can start as early as December 27th. The people who were claimed dependent as an adult, so if you're a college student or you have medical insurance through your parents, you're usually claimed dependent in that situation. You wouldn't be able to get the $600. That would disqualify you from that. But the family would be able to get the $600. So it's not going to be directly to you, it'd be through your family. So hopefully you and mommy or daddy have a great relationship.
That's not fucking dark.
I mean, it's true.
Speaking
There's
of
a
mommy,
lot of families.
My wife has been over here doing this little project. My kid comes home from school and he's like, look what we did in school, right?
Yeah.
And Beth, being Beth, she's like, I'm totally going to do this. And this is the cutest fucking thing. She's fighting with a hook at the moment.
A hook?
Here. What?
Something knitted?
It's a little hat.
Aw.
It's a little hat ornament.
That's kind of cool. That's
Dude,
actually awesome.
I know, dude. It's with yarn and like a toilet paper tube cut.
Yeah. That's
so
cool.
Cute. Anyway, back to what we were doing.
Yeah.
I had to brag about my wife being awesome over here.
So the $300 a week for unemployment would be covered for 11 weeks. So that's at least till March 14th. But they've also been talking about it also covering gig workers and contract workers. So that is set to expire on the 26th, I believe. So that would also be extended for 11 years. Again, at the time that I wrote this, at least, it wasn't out, but this is kind of what people close to the situation know. So whatever Washington Post was basically talking about the most about. And also whatever the Schumer essentially basically announced it. And that's kind of basing what most of it was based off of, and this was in the written form. Negotiators also agreed to extend the deadline for states and cities to use unspent money from the CARES Act. So it's a great thing that we have bailed out oil companies in North Dakota. We definitely needed to do that, and that's awesome. Great. They'll also be extending a 1-month moratorium on evictions. That was set to expire on the 31st of December. And it will now expire on 31st of January. And when it comes to the moratorium, It's not like if you don't pay, that's one thing. But a lot of landlords have also been doing it based on lease breaking. So like if you break your lease in any way, shape, or form, so like if your neighbors are like saying you're really loud, they can still evict you in that type of a situation. So this is a monetary eviction moratorium. So be careful with that. And also just a 30-year-old tip from a 30-year-old, probably to somebody older. Moratorium does not mean that you don't owe the money anymore. It just means that you won't be able to be taken action on based on not paying it. So what I'm trying to say is that will still be due. So please pay your rent, guys. Yeah, the moratorium will be extended through January. There's also a talk about the incoming President Biden. I do not care if you think it's Trump or Biden. It's Biden. Can also be possibly extending it if necessary. They're also providing $25 billion in emergency assistance to renters. So, the people who are on that HUD list, maybe 2 of them will be now approved. $25 billion is a lot, but if you look at the list of HUD, like getting approved for HUD, it's in some cases in certain states, years. California, for instance, it's years. It's not months. It's not like 1 year. It's years on that waiting list, and in some cases forgotten about. So yeah, there's less people that will have to be waiting in line. The bill also, again, not released in its entirety, but will also grant PPP money, paycheck protection. I don't know what the other P stands for.
Program, I believe.
Program, yeah. Paycheck protection program. Say that 3 times.
Which is, yeah, that actually really helped us out at the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, if not for that, we would have really, especially in the beginning when everything really shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, we had like everybody that was working an office job working from home if possible and whatever. And then we had some people where it's like once that really started getting extended, or you fell through the cracks a little bit to where you had to use PTO.
Yeah.
Without that PPP money, we wouldn't been able to bring them back to work. We'd probably have to furlough people.
Yeah. I mean, it saved a lot of businesses. It also got abused like crazy. But the thing that I really liked about it, and while it's probably not the best way of enforcement, the large businesses that got PPP money that may have not needed it, and again, that's based on society picking if they need it or not, they were very quickly called out, and those people either brought it back or defended themselves. So at least it protects companies that may want to be abusing the system, possibly getting some flack for it. So that's the one good thing about that. The other weird thing, and oh boy, Schumer had definitely said that he protected this, and this was his idea, or not his idea, but his like main thing. Churches will also be able to get PPP money as long as they're non-profit organizations. Churches are mostly non-profit organizations. So I'm guessing at this point, PPP money is probably gone. It hasn't passed, and it's probably already gone. But I think we might be able to see that kind of. I think people will be able to do that whole social justice thing that large companies are getting. The churches might be seeing that as well. So there will be $330 billion in small business aid, and also tens of billions of dollars. Again, it wasn't out. So tens of billions of dollars will be sent to critical needs, such as transportation agencies, distressed renters, and hungry people. I like how they say it, hungry people. So basically, you'll depending on how much money is left from the small business aid. Food stamps, you'll be able to get extra money, kind of like people have been with CARES Act. By the way, totally saved my ass yesterday. And as far as distressed renters and rental insurance or rental assistance, there's I think there's 3 different processes for how people can get renters assistance. One is sign up, second is homeless shelter, and the third is an eviction order. And you go to your local state social services building and you say, I got an eviction, and that's usually how you get kind of fast-tracked. This will allow those types of situations to actually be honored, whereas usually you get it and the best that they can do is kind of talk to the landlord to try to get something figured out, but there's money for that as well. So as far as what happened from the weekend, or from Friday and into the weekend, the issue was Republicans, GOP, I don't think it's only Republicans, but Republicans had what they wanted was the Federal Reserve not to have the ability to pass something similar to the CARES Act. And in regard to PPP money and state funding, the reason why it was attached to a spending bill was because this is now earmarked. They got annoyed because when the CARES Act passed, it wasn't like a spending bill, it was like an emergency type of deal, and they kind of wanted it to be attached to a spending bill, which is understandable in some ways. It's, if you've already earmarked money to assistance, it's a lot easier to not have to take cuts later on down the road, and that's kind of where that was coming from. But the topic was a sticking point for them. That's basically the reason why they had backed out after $1,200 was put up. Somebody was talking about doing a $1,200 stimulus direct money check. But that's pretty much what they were talking about. I forgot who it was. I actually might have the clip. I'm not going to play the clip. Too much work. There was a senator in Wisconsin who went up and basically said, hey, I'm not a bad person. I just don't think this is a good idea. Reason why is because we're mortgaging our children's future to paying them. Some of the statements that he said, talking about statistics, great. He was talking about statistics. You know what? Why don't we watch it? I don't know how to easily do that right now, though. Yeah, basically he said that, hey, when we did, he brought up a stimulus check in 2009, or maybe it was 2010, during the financial crisis. There was a direct money payment type of thing, and I don't know how much it was. He pretty much applied today's standing to what happened back then. I basically said, there was an extra $50 in unemployment in that type of a situation, and there was also like a $600 check, and in that $600 check, he kind of broke down where people spent it. And when he basically, his main takeaway was in 2000, I want to say it's 2009, but in 2000, during that last stimulus check there, the majority of the use of the money was sent to savings, as if people don't use money in savings to help with future disasters. Like, it didn't happen to them yet, but they are pretty sure they're going to be affected type of deal, so they are being conscious and saving the money. And then a certain percentage, the largest percentage was savings. The second largest was consumables, and consumables can be food, but they can also be, I don't know, TVs and stuff like that. That was the nice way of saying, things you don't need. And then a certain portion was used for leisure activities, essentially, is what he said, like cruises, airlines, stuff like that. So that was the breakdown then. And then he looked at the $1,200 that we got in CARES, and that the amount of savings had gone up. So people were saving their $1,200 that they were getting per person. They were saving the majority of it, and then a larger portion went to leisure stuff, and then the the small little part of it went to the actual, emergency aid. So essentially, it was saying, do we really need it? Not really mentioning the fact that people use savings. They save money specifically for rainy days, and they may have not gotten affected by it at the moment, but that doesn't mean that they aren't being irresponsible and preparing themselves for possibly needing it in the future. So, for instance, if you haven't gotten coronavirus, but you're pretty sure you're going to because you live in a state where nobody believes in masks, you have the money in savings, so when you do get it and when you're off of work, you have money to fall back on. That seems to be something that didn't go through his head. So that was basically the biggest sticking point for the GOP, and that's kind of what everybody rode behind. And so they basically had fallen back on that. They didn't agree to that type of a situation, and so they basically still passed it through without that requirement. So the Federal Reserve would still be able to pass something that's not in a spending bill as far as Stim. And so the biggest thing that a lot of Democrats saw that as is like, if we do deny this, or if we do allow this, then that means when Biden comes in, if there is another need for stimulus, then, we gotta wait till the next fiscal year, or the next spending bill, basically, to do that stimulus package, which would not be fast enough type of thing. So that was kind of like the talking point there. And it seems like that got figured out. It seems like that wasn't a requirement in the spending bill. So, yeah. It's also kind of funny that in most cases, Republican states take more money from the Fed than Democrats states. Just saying. Specifically, let's talk about McConnell and the fact that that's kind of where a lot of their aid money has come from, federal rather than state spending or state savings account.
Or we could just talk about fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. McConnell's an interesting person. So
I say it all the time when people are talking mad shit on like Facebook posts and stuff like that. Mitch McConnell looks like someone who had just severely shit his pants and just realized it. Yeah. I'm dead serious. Look at any picture of McConnell, and he always looks like that surprised look on somebody's face when they shit their pants. And I cannot unsee it every time I see him.
I don't remember where it was, but there was like a documentary where I think it was McConnell that they went on that kind of like told his story. Apparently he had polio at one point, and he like wasn't made to like be able to walk, and then he beat it. I think it was McConnell, or maybe it was Lindsey Graham. It was one or the other. One of the head GOP people. But yeah, it was a crazy story of his entire life, but like that's apparently like his. I think it was McConnell, because that was apparently
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. I think it's on his Wikipedia, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was McConnell.
Yep. Yeah. And it was polio, right? Did
Yep.
I get that one right? Oh, nice. I watched that documentary, I think, like a year ago. It's crazy that I remembered that. You'd think at my age. I don't know. I'm old, so I forget things.
In 1944, at the age of 2, McConnell's upper left leg was paralyzed by a polio attack. He received treatment at Roosevelt Warm Springs, blah, blah, blah.
And apparently that's the reason why his view on Medicaid is, like, so warped. Because he doesn't want people to get the type of treatment that he got in his past. I have no idea. I think that might have just
this is what
fucked
pisses me
this
off
dude
most.
off.
Is when it's mainly Republicans in government that are talking about how the socialism is a failed system, but like social democracies, like a lot of Europe, whatever. It's, it's very successful, and it's like all people here see is just the higher tax rate, but they don't understand that the overall quality of life that's given back and blanketed over their country, how successful that can be. And what blows me away is it's mainly Republican that turn around and talk shit about like socialized medicine, but they get socialized medicine.
All right.
They receive health care funded by the government, and then they tell other people that they can't have access to that.
I think it was yesterday when I want to say it was GOP. They got it televised. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was televised. I just remember seeing a blurb, like on CNN or whatever, of ahead leaders in Congress. I don't know which one. Were getting the vaccine through the. I believe it was Senate actually. Were getting the vaccine televised, and it was like a thing that they did. We're gonna see a lot of televised vaccines. Spoiler alert, it is no different than a vaccine you've gotten before. It's just you get two of them rather than one.
Yep.
The one question I do have is this a for life or is this a booster? Like you have to get a booster every like 10 years, like tetanus or whatever. That's the one thing, or maybe it's not known yet. I wonder if that's the case. So one thing I like didn't even think to look up, but now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, I don't know, because I know tetanus is 10 years, or maybe it was 12 years, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 7 or 10. You have to get a booster. Something like that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it's a viral one, and I think this one changes your DNA, and that's the reason why it like makes it so that the coronavirus can't latch on to your cells. Because the DNA is like I know that if you've had it, you can't get it again. Kind of like chickenpox.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing if it's a viral, like if it's the vaccine is probably the same because it does the same to you. I don't know. Either way, get vaccinated. Just come on, guys.
Yeah, seriously, this should not be a topic of conversation.
Like I've mentioned it before. I've said it before even too. Like I understand that it's a lot faster than normal, but it's not that it was. And what I've figured out is it's not that it was faster than normal because they were trying to rush it. It's because it's very similar to, I believe, some other vaccine. It's just a different load. Like, the same method of action is used. It's just for a different virus.
Okay, 2 things on that. One, like, what people aren't realizing is when we normally go through a vaccine, we don't have anything that's, like, really emphasizing the need of rushing it,
Yeah.
Whereas we're in the middle of a global thing right now. So that really put a lot of fire under people's asses to really push through. But what people don't realize is we had the building blocks for this already. We have decades and decades of research and just R&D and the science behind it to be able to do this. And then you throw in the technology that even compared to 10 years ago is tenfold better and more efficient. This really just was an exercise proving that it was capable.
I think the biggest... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
The polio vaccine was only trialed on like 2,000 people.
Oh, really?
Yep. And then the amount of people, when I got my briefing on it, it was that 140,000 people had received the vaccine through trials.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the placebo either. 140,000 people
that
had been inoculated with either one of them.
Right.
That's more people that were tested in a trial than polio, HPV, and then 2 other vaccines combined.
Oh. Well, yeah.
So, all the science is behind this. Sorry.
I think the biggest detriment to the vaccine was the politics of it. We live in a society, no, we live in a time where medicine has a political standing, where science is a Democrat or Republican view. Just think about that for a minute. So yeah. I gotta remember that for the last one. Let's get into. Let me just change this. There. So, here's the exclusive. Before we get into it, let's just kind of define things. So, the Office of the Comptroller of Currency. I know, this is like... If you have panties on, it's probably on the floor by now, because we're talking about comptrollers. So, definition of a comptroller is a person in a management level position responsible for supervising the quality and accounting and financial reporting of an organization. In this case, currency. So in November of 20th, I kind of dropped the ball on this, but I didn't really relate it to this. November 20th, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency is proposing a regulation to ensure that national banks and federal savings associations offer and provide fair access to financial services. This is based on something called the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, also known as Dodd-Frank Act. They're talking about including a revised statement that, in the Dodd-Frank Act, the OCC, Office of the Comptroller of Currency, is the one that's charged with assuring the safety and soundness and compliance with laws and regulations, and fair access to financial services, and fair treatment of consumers by the institutions and other persons subject to its jurisdiction. That's kind of the background of it. They are issuing a guidance to specifically address reports of banks refusing to provide access to financial services to entire industry categories engaging in lawful business activities without regard to the risk factors of the individual customers in these categories. Yes, I know this is a lot. I will kind of... I'll take a side here. Basically, the OCC, under this act, is the governing body for how banks and financial institutions act in regards to different situations, and essentially their talk is if a customer comes in and wants to open up a bank account, they are to fill out the paperwork, and then they are to assess the risks and the costs regarding keeping that bank account. So when they look at the risks, there's actions based on like what the risk factors are in that specific industry they are in. So like if we're going to be talking about cannabis, for instance, in a cannabis dispensary or cannabis law just in general, things like, what's the legal standing in the state regarding cannabis? What type of business are they doing? Are they a grower? Are they a dispensary? Are they a political action committee, for instance? Anything like that. So they kind of look at those, and the OCC kind of maintains the laws and regulations regarding that. So they, some banks have taken these types of actions based on criteria unrelated to safe and sound banking practices, including personal beliefs and opinions on matters of substantive policy that are appropriately under the purview of the state and federal government, assessments ungrounded in quantitative risk-based analysis, and assessments premised on assumptions about future legal or political changes. So essentially what that means is banks and payment processors have been making decisions based on politics, what the bank believes in its politics. It likes the customer's politics. And if there's any kind of actual evidence to any of the decisions that they make, they have made there's none that's been stated. Yeah. So essentially, if we're talking about cannabis, for instance, if you're like a political action committee. Oh boy, what's going on? I'm not dropping frames. Doesn't look like I'm dropping frame. So essentially what that means, sorry, I'm just going to do this live. Seems fine. Don't understand. Okay. So essentially, banks have been like, oh, you're a political action committee, but the word cannabis is somewhere in the name, so fuck off. So how this started was in 2013, there was a program called Operation Choke Point. It was a it was a group of people, an organization under the Obama administration, that basically sought out major banks to close the accounts of high-risk industries. And again, it was under the Obama administration. It was appointed, it wasn't voted for, or anything like that. So, like, you don't know who your the Operation Choke Point leader is. It's just basically somebody that was appointed, and it was basically essentially focused on high fraud businesses and industries, and federal regulators were basically able to force banks to close accounts based on the risk of fraud and the risk, basically. So, like, if it was an obvious illegal operation, they had the right to close that bank account. That's basically it. So if, like, a dispensary didn't get any kind of, like, permit or anything like that, and they just decided to open up a store with no kind of backing or anything like that, and they had a bank account, they were able to close that bank account. Which pretty much kills the business. Because, yeah, the main point of a business is to make money. That's the main point. So, yeah, they basically were the morality police. So the affected industries there were several of them, but payday lending, adult entertainment, firearm and ammo sales, coin dealers, tobacco sales, home-based charities. So you could be a big charity, but if you're running it out of your house, no. Fireworks sales, dating services. It did cover, you know, some actual illicit activity, like debt consolidation scams, illegal online gambling, so, like, not based on state, federal laws, just illegal gambling, I guess. And it's kind of opened up a little bit as far as the laws regarding that, but this was in 2013. On January 29th, 2015, after being drug in front of some committee in-house, they had issued a federal institution letter that states that the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, issued a financial institution letter today encouraging supervised institutions to take a risk-based approach in assessing individual consumer relationships rather than declining to provide banking services to entire categories of customers without regard to the risks presented by the individual customer or the financial institution's ability to manage the risk. So that basically put the kibosh on it. They got drug out. The DOJ and the head of DOJ and the head of FDIC basically denied any involvement, even though there was email chains talking about it. Yeah, they denied any involvement. They basically, the FDIC is the one that issued the statement, so they got caught and they pieced the fuck out, and the actual responsible org that ended up with the bag there is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and it still does act under the Operation Choke Point rules. And they still close accounts. Essentially what this is saying, hey, there's an actual law that says that, hey, you can't just base it on the industry that they're in. So, like, in different industries, there are different things inside, like different subcategories, different niches. So if you're a political organization in cannabis, you are a political organization first and cannabis second. They see it as the same. So they see the word cannabis, they say, nope. Not even taking the context of political organization. So essentially, this is the reason why, like, for instance, our story is, or my story now, when we were a part of NDCC, not a part of it anymore, one of the major things that we had started, and one of the biggest hurdles that ever happened as far as the tech side of things, was we were taking in donations. And in internet world, when you take in donations, you need a bank to process those payments because you don't take people's credit card numbers over the internet. You partner with Visa through another company by the name of Stripe, for instance. That basically is the one that takes in the credit card data and the one that talks to Visa and takes the money at that person's bank account, and then it transfers it over to us. So, and then they take a cut of it. So we had launched that. It was about a week. We were not really getting a lot of, like, donations or anything like that, but there were donations, and there was a lot of test donations from me, for instance, where I had basically been like, okay, I'm going to donate $1 to make sure this all works, and to, like, look at the actual process of how it all works and where just to make sure that we know what's going on. So done those. About a couple days into the week, we had gotten a very angry letter, very, very similar to the letters that payday lenders and all of these companies were getting from Operation Choke Point, and that's kind of what happened. Essentially, this rule that they're proposing here would stop something like that from happening. So basically, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency believes that most banks have not been acting based on the memo, basically saying that you have to look at the industry and the different categories and the risks of that specific bank, that specific customer, and not just the industry. So yeah, that was basically that. So what does that mean for cannabis? Even if the SAFE Act had passed, they would still have this hurdle to jump over. So essentially, the SAFE Act is in Senate. It's been in Senate for months, years.
I was going to say a long time.
Yeah, like a year. I think it was October of 2019. So a little bit over a year. Which will open it up federally, but you also have the States Act. That's the one that, States Act that passed through House and is probably going to die in Senate. But when it is in Senate, or if it passes through Senate, very doubtful, would be federally decriminalized. It would make it a lot easier for the OCC, for instance, in this case, to actually be able to have banks actually hold money for people in cannabis industries. And this is essentially a way of saying, okay, well, before this happens, at least look at the context of that type of person. So, like, if that customer is a political organization with cannabis, they're a political organization first. It's not like they are selling cannabis without licenses or anything like that. They aren't selling anything. They're taking in donations, and they fall under that purview rather than just cannabis, bad. So it does, there's also a lot of different industries like firearm and ammo sales are biggest one in that. Payday lenders as well. That's the reason why you see such predatory payday lenders opening and doing business. It's because they pretty much have their own little network, and that's the reason why they're so powerful in that regard. So that's kind of why you don't see like mom and pop shops of payday lending. Also, it's a huge risk, so mom and pop shops don't really like to take that big of a risk. But there was a story of one tobacco. So like there's a story of they were a hookah sales online, and they were taking in money and selling hookah stuff, and they got their ass shut down, and they got one of these letters. There's still the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was it is not a government organization. It is kind of like the what's the name of the like if you're a business and somebody leaves a review, but it's not a government.
Better Business Bureau.
Yeah, the Better Business Bureau. Like that's not an actual federal or state government run entity at all. It just has the word bureau in it, but that's about it. The
makes it seem official.
Yeah, the Federal Protection Bureau. It has done some good things, but it's the one that's been basically acting and sending these types of letters out as of recent 2015. From 2013 to 2015, that's kind of when the DOJ and the FDIC was involved, and that's why they were kind of getting shit. It's still Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's responsibility now, and that's kind of what the OCC is trying to go against. Essentially, there's a comment period on until January 4th. I know it's very confusing. If you read it and you know what it's talking about, comment. If you don't understand the whole entire thing of it, I barely do, but I understand like the weight of the topic and a very far away view and understanding of this. You can leave a comment. There's a lot of comments apparently. There's 363. Yeah. There's a lot of comments, and yeah, if you would like to leave one, feel free to leave one in regards to your, if you've gotten one of these letters, and if you are in the cannabis industry, you've probably gotten one of these letters. You probably know what I'm talking about. So, yeah. It's also really, really difficult to know if it is one of these types of letters. When we got cut off, it was a email saying you have 14 days to get your shit and get the fuck out. Essentially is basically what that meant. And when you contact them and be like, what the hell is going on? They just say it's based on your industry, and that's it. Because it's not Stripe that made the response. It was the bank that processes Stripe that did it. And the reason why basically payment processing just in general is such a big issue online with these types of a thing. Like if you look on Amazon, if you look on eBay, anything like that, if you're selling any of the, like those are the banned items, and that's the reason why. Is like OnlyFans, for instance, they have their own payment processor. That's the reason why they're getting past adult entertainment. Like they have a contract with Visa. So that's the reason why they can make these types of decisions very quickly and everything like that, and that's kind of the reason. But they also have a contract with Visa that they have to follow to the T. So they kind of cut out the middleman. But most people, even large businesses like eBay, for instance, they use PayPal. They own PayPal, but PayPal is a payment processor, but they have their own rules and regulations and their own contract with Visa and MasterCard and all these other companies. So essentially, payment processing on the internet is very, very difficult. This is aiming to make it a lot easier. The SAFE Act would still be helpful. The States Act is still helpful as well, but this essentially jumps over a hurdle. I think I've explained it well, right? like done a good job?
I would say so.
I don't know. I feel like because I did a lot of copy and pasting and a lot of research into it, but like I'm hoping I've stated everything I meant to say. Essentially, this is good. This good thing. That's what I'm saying. This good thing. So yeah. If you do know what's going on, or you've been affected, like if you're a CBD sales company and you can't get a bank account. We did end up getting a bank account, and it's kind of funny because like that bank totally saved our ass. It's not affiliated anymore, and I believe it's closed. But that account essentially saved our ass. They didn't shut, like when we were going through with it, we went to like Wells Fargo. They said get the fuck out.
Yeah, Wells Fargo was a very, very quick no.
Yeah, like there's a lot of them that were just like, that's the door. You've said the word cannabis here. Get the fuck out. But yeah, Stripe kind of totally let us slip under the radar, and then they got some shit and they kicked us.
So fuck Stripe.
Yeah, Stripe was actually the funny thing is Stripe was the one that made it very, very easy to payment process. Like that was the thing. Past Stripe, our only other option, and I'm not going to say that one because even if it's not active anymore, I'm not recommending anybody do it. There's a little bit of a little loophole that I had to use to do that. But if they had looked deep enough and looked at like the refer URL, they probably would have kicked us. But yeah, when you with business online, payment processing is a requirement. If you are selling any type of adult items, so like I mean, payday lending wouldn't be hopefully as an adult you think payday lending is a bad thing, but like adult entertainment, firearms, coin dealing, tobacco, like adult stuff, this is like one of the biggest loopholes for them. And it also affects the industries directly. I mean, the costs of like coin dealers, I don't know, I don't collect coins, but the cost of them goes up dramatically because of the risk. And that's the thing, like as far as like a marketplace for that type of a thing, that risk is huge, and that's usually the reason why they charge such high amounts of money for it for sale. So yeah, make a comment today, I guess. Yeah, like let's jump through all this. Yeah, the Frank Dodd Act was enacted in 2010, and if you look at it, this is kind of, if you look into my bank account was closed, this is usually a thing like it shouldn't be, but this is what happened. Yeah, Operation Choke Point was a thing, and in some cases, people got lucky, and in some cases they got an actual answer of like, yes, we got an Operation Choke Point answer. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened there. The final story, which I've been considering talking about SolarWinds, but that's a very interesting story.
You know, I kind of want to touch on that because my kid is with his mom in Nebraska right now, so it's like, you know, we can talk a little bit, and it's like I've been so busy with work this last few weeks that I have no idea like the scope of SolarWinds right now.
All right, so SolarWinds. So SolarWinds, and this is just off the top of my head, but this is what I know for sure. SolarWinds back in 2019 had a report from a pen tester saying, yo, your update server, its password is SolarWinds123. At which point they said, okay, thank you for that information, and did absolutely nothing about it. This allowed, from the background searching, a Russian agency. In hacker world, if it comes from Russia, or if it comes from the Russian government, so the Kremlin, bear is attached to the name. It's confusing, but that's their branding, that we're a Russian government hacker, and that is their main thing. China have also done it, but yeah, that's their main thing. And the U.S. also, even though we have the Space Force or whatever, now this is a different little thing. The U.S. is also engaged in a lot of hacking stuff, but a Russian agency by the name of Cozy Bear, so that's the one that infiltrates for a long time, Cozy, had registered a domain.
I didn't even put that together.
Yeah. Yeah, there's what are the different bears?
Oh, Jesus Christ. That just rocked my face. They were there for a long time, Cozy, and then it's just light bulb.
Fancy Bear, also known as Apt 28, Pawn Storm. These are all the different attacks that they've done that have been actually proven, some in 2020. Yeah, so there's a lot of different parts, but they have registered a domain called avcscloud.com. That domain essentially was what they had used it to fly under the radar of a lot of different firewalls and all of these things to validate and to control SolarWinds software. So a company called FireEye actually was affected by an update from SolarWinds. So the hackers had gained access to the update server. They had a copy of the certificate, so they were able to sign an update with SolarWinds' key, so it does not trip anything. So they had that. They had pushed an update to the server from what I've understood it to be as SolarWinds 123, and a company called FireEye, which is a threat monitoring program, or threat monitoring company, so they're the ones who look out for viruses and everything like that, had received the update and had installed the update and had realized that it was communicating to a new domain. After looking into the domain and where it was going, they had realized it was a Russian-controlled server. Sorry, I'll wait. So, sorry. So they basically got the update into FireEye. FireEye had noticed the inaccurate and the sketchy activity, and one of the things that AVCS Cloud did was it was a control server that would be able to activate a specific form of SolarWinds' software, and that software was called Orion, and Orion was the update service. So what they were able to do was they would be able to remotely capture packets going in and out of the server, check what software is running. It's essentially the security version of the software's apt, apt-get. It's essentially that, but it also has PCAP underneath it. That's the best way I can explain it. So you can control, essentially, okay, that's a bad example. Webmin, essentially. They had webmin access. They were able to do everything and anything they want, remote shell, anything. This software runs on a lot of companies, a lot of Fortune 500 companies. The U.S. Treasury was one of them. Partial customer listing, here we go. AT&T, Bell South, Best Western, Blue Cross Blue Shield, all of these companies. Comcast Cable. Yeah. The Pentagon, NASA, State Department, NSA, Postal Service, NOAA, Department of Justice, the Office of the President. So these are the potential targets. There's no 1000% proof, but it depends on what their update system was and how often they updated. A lot of like the super secretive type of companies will usually stay behind an update unless it's a security update. Like if it's a new feature, they don't need it type of deal. But yeah, this is a good website to know everything. They exploited a vulnerability in VMware, apparently. And that was one of the... there was multiple accesses, essentially. But there... or AVCS also, if you killed AVCS, or if you deleted the domain, the control domain, it would basically essentially register the controls of it moot. You wouldn't be able to do anything to it. So the owner of AVCS was essentially forced to sell to Microsoft, which AVCS is actually a Microsoft service of some sort. I forgot what it was called, but that was their method of being able to take the domain. But yeah, 18,000 customers.
That's just insane to think about.
AVSV, or AVS, yeah, avsvmcloud.com. That was the domain. And if you go there now, it just returns a 404. Yeah, it's not going to respond. But, yeah, 404. But if you go and you ping it, it is responding, it's just not. There we go. That's its domain. I don't even think that's an actual... Let's see, what does Aaron say? This is essentially how you know who owns it. The address. I have never seen a 20. What? 20.140.0.1. I bet that's like a ISP level block. Nope, Microsoft. I remember it not being that IP address though. But yeah, this is essentially a domain now owned by Microsoft or controlled by Microsoft. So the attack, as far as this specific attack, is over. But there's several coming out, like the VMware vulnerability. There's a lot. So yeah. Be ready to hear a lot of stuff about this. There's gonna be a lot. And essentially, like, this is one of the biggest data breaches in US history.
Like in history.
Yeah. I think there was a couple that were in like China or something like that. The biggest one that the US has done, even though there's a good amount of proof, but there isn't like concrete proof, was what's the name of it? It affected Iran's nuclear enrichment program.
Oh yeah.
Virus, Iran, nuclear. Stuxnet. So it could be one of two people. It could be either the US or it could be Russia. We're not sure. But at the time, Russia was iffy friendly, not super, with Iran. And this virus actually led to the top nuclear physicist in Iran to be murdered. So, if you don't think computer hacking affects people in real life, it gets people murdered.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to nuclear materials. So, yeah. Anyway, that's
It's true, man. Like a lot of people just see it as a game or innocent tinkering, and it's like,
yeah.
people die for this.
There's I mean, there's talk about like the possibility of this could even go into like or like one of the targets, not sure if it was completely successful, was power grids. Was hospitals, like the systems of hospitals to grab like medical data.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge safety like protocol there that almost makes it almost impossible, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible. And there's new like really, really weird hacks that have been coming out too of how to get data from like air-gapped systems. There was a company in the US that did this, but the exploit came out. There was multiple of them, and it's basically the same style and method. Was the attacker would place a camera in front of the computer any way that they could possibly do it, or access a camera, and the data would be sent through the RAM. And what it would do is it would speed up the speed of the RAM to 2.4 gigahertz, at which point it would be able to capture it through a router by basically listening through the camera the actual like interference between the Wi-Fi signal and the computer to being able to capture data. So it would be able to send ones and zeros, so this would be binary, the actual data at 100 bits per second. They also were the ones that did the hard drive light. They would send ones and zeros, like one would be on, the zero would be off, through the hard drive light. Or through, like, there was through the floppy light on certain computers.
Yeah.
Through, yeah, essentially they're breaking every single FCC violation, but the problem is data centers don't have like sensors like this to be able to see stuff like this, because like who the fuck would do this? But yeah, there's a lot of people that are trying to figure out how to get shit from one computer to another, and there's a lot of money in it. There's
that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, there's a company in Minnesota that they get hired, and this happened in Iowa. They get hired by Fortune 500 companies to essentially play James Bond and steal their shit so that they know how to fix their shit. And that's called pen testing. And there was a case in Iowa where one of them got caught. So obviously their security was good. Got caught and is getting charged with burglary and unauthorized systems access because the boss of that site is the one that hired them, and not the company that essentially was the one that like owns the company. And I don't know what happened with that. I think he got released and everything's fine now, but like, yeah, there's a lot of money into hacking. So yeah. And apparently when you answered, you told me that like it was basically 1 year ago that we got our asses handed to us.
Oh god, yeah.
And
I met my
smart.
mother-in-law's for Christmas, like family from out of state and stuff like that, and here I am, like little fucking laptop trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. I didn't even remember. I remember it being a very, very stressful like 6 hours. But yeah, at least nothing was stolen.
Well, because there's nothing to steal.
Right. Yeah. But I think it was more for a sport of the thing. But whatever. So the DEA, this is the last one here. DEA has issued a final rule for licensing more growers for research. As far as with cannabis, the DEA on Thursday revealed a long-awaited final rule aimed at expanding. I should probably show the screen. Where's my little down button? There we go. Cool. Authorized marijuana growers to be used in scientific research. These are the rules that they're going to be basing it off of. The DEA actually was taking in a couple public comments and it received, and these are like kind of the answers. They kind of broke it down to 8 different categories: the application process and the criteria, the quality of the cannabis, the federal agency's obligations pertaining to the controlling of cannabis, like the grow and the harvest of it for research purposes, the meaning of medical cannabis, security costs and requirements applicable to the manufacture of marijuana, harvest cost, pricing, and fees for marijuana for people to be able to get a license to grow research cannabis, which is actually a really, really cool way of saying that, research cannabis. Many of the customers, or commenters, and these are the things that they had basically said. They agreed that the DEA should not disqualify applicants who have grown marijuana in compliance with state law, to which they responded that it is statutorily bound to consider instances where an applicant violated federal law, something that all state marijuana cultivation businesses do, and would continue to do so. So essentially they're saying, you know, if you've gotten caught before for growing, that doesn't give you the, it's not a bullet point on your resume, essentially, is what they're saying. They also, many commenters had asked to factor in the applicant's ability to produce high-quality marijuana and past experiences cultivating the plant. Again, because you haven't gotten caught, because you've gotten caught before, doesn't give you the right to put that on your resume type of deal. Under those factors, a DEA will consider the applicant's past experience in the manufacture of controlled substances and its promotion of technical advances in the art of manufacturing these substances, is what it's saying. But then the DEA was asked, would it not be allowing researchers to obtain marijuana products from state legal cannabis businesses, which would have high-quality cannabis in it? It cited international treaty obligations and federal statutes, as well as public safety considerations. The agency also said that extending the access is unnecessary since they will be expanding the number of registered manufacturers. So essentially that's their cop-out. Hey, we're going to work on it, so you don't try to figure it out yourself. Yeah.
I should be right back.
Yeah, you're all good.
Sorry about that.
You're good. There was also questions about, this is where it gets weird, international treaties or the Controlled Substances Act. I can understand the Controlled Substances Act. Not really sure what's going on with international treaties regarding it, but regarding the controls of marijuana should be amended or abandoned, and they had said that that is beyond the scope of the rulemaking and DEA's authority. The DEA also announced in 2016 that it would be expanding the number of marijuana cultivators, and they had received over 30 applicants, to which none of them were acted on, with lawsuits being filed. Last year we had talked about this. I think it was actually one of our first 3 shows. The DEA did say in the final rule that it would be prioritizing those applicants before moving on to review the new ones. Essentially, they said, we received your message. Thank you. They rejected pushback on the proposed rules provisions that specifically exempt it from liability of marijuana that's damaged or destroyed under its possession. So if the DEA comes and raids your research marijuana field, that is not your fault, or that is not their fault. They stress that it only handles cannabis for a short time, and it will maintain the statute of non-liability in order to avoid costly and unnecessary disputes. Because, sure. Several commenters also made the argument that the DEA should relinquish control of the marijuana growers program and give that responsibility to an agency such as, well, I don't know, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, National Institutes of Health, the Food and Drug Administration, or the Department of Agriculture, and they said that it works in concert with them, those other government entities, and would continue to do so, but it's statutorily obligated to maintain sole control. I mean, yes, that makes sense, but at the same time, if we're doing this for research purposes, I can understand why DEA would have control of that to be able to monitor, but I would hope that the main people who would be like in a decision-making process would be the ones that would benefit the most from it rather than the least from it. I can understand monitoring it, but yeah. The DEA said it would not be taking special steps to ensure diversity and inclusion of minority applicants. The DEA also said that multiple factors mean that it can't specifically streamline the process of approving applications to become cannabis manufacturers for studies, despite the multiple requests it received. However, it did pledge to provide a notice that the application was received within 90 days of its accepted filing. So essentially, the deputy director of NORML, Paul Armentano, had said, time and time again, the DEA has proven itself full of empty promises when it comes to the issue of facilitating clinical cannabis research in the United States. I believe that. So essentially, this was a whole bunch of nothing, but it did kind of clarify its view. Even when it comes to research purposes, they're not even talking about sales or anything like that. They are talking about cultivation, but for research. So it's not like, when it comes to this, it's not like, yo, this person's just gonna grow some like cannabis in their backyard and they're gonna sell it to like the U of M. This is more like, testing different growing conditions, the testing of the actual plant and the different conditions and how to change the different parts of cannabis as far as getting more of a certain cannabinoid rather than another one and all that stuff. I mean, just recently, Delta 8 was one of them, where there's Delta 8 is new. By the way, you said you got some, didn't you?
I did, and I don't consume cannabis.
Yeah.
But from the last time that I actually did, it was essentially the same thing.
Yeah. I figured as much, but I don't know. Like, everybody was saying, yeah, I take it now. I don't smoke myself, but it's like all of the beauty of the high, but none of like the anxiety that comes with it. And
I did, but again, like THC makes me panic anyway.
Yeah, same.
So I still did, but it wasn't anywhere near as extreme.
That's good. Yeah. Delta 8
it was more of I needed to lay down for a little while.
Yeah. And Delta 8 is, there's actually a way that you can make it. Not going to say how, but there's a way on the internet. Taking CBD and using chemicals, very dangerous chemicals, don't do it. But yeah, that's pretty much where it comes from, CBD. And I think we're going to basically explain it the way that Leslie from NDCC, her husband actually, had basically said. So the reason why we have this is it's a public comment type of thing, and like I was showing, like, read people's comments. Like, this is about the you can read their comments essentially. So Leslie's husband had said, you had years to get this done. Actually, I think I have it up. Yeah, there we go. You had years to get this done. We would appreciate true action this time, as well as deregulating and freeing of product to be housed at the facilities that are doing the research. We know once it disappears into your coffers, we never hear any more from it. That's definitely what he's talking about with the liability of the DEA when they seize. Get it together. We also know most of you must be in the reefer madness era, as this should have been unscheduled years ago. There is absolutely no reason a plant that grew wild in the U.S. and around the world should be eradicated at the expense of billions of dollars of tax money. More than 80% of Americans think it should be legal at most and medically available to everyone at least. Fix this now. Which I think it explains it pretty perfectly, exactly like what most people when it comes to research and all that stuff, what their view is to the DEA. It did hit on a couple points that I definitely agree with. I don't know. Also, the reason why I found it was during this part. There's a link on here. Yeah, this is responding to me parts. Yep. So this was the story. DEA gets a few comments on far-reaching marijuana research proposal. And North Dakota resident Wayne Hulbert said DEA has had years to get this done. It like quoted in it even. So congratulations, your husband is in a marijuana moment article, which is really fucking cool. Just gotta say that.
I think it is.
Right?
That's fucking dope.
Right? That's where I found it. I'm like, that sounds like whenever I see the word North Dakota, I'm like, wait, what? Like, I just look and see what it is.
Like, we probably know you.
Yeah, and I saw the last name. I was like, oh shit. So I like double checked it with her, but yeah. It's kind of cool. I don't know.
I think that's dope, dude.
Right? So yeah, the deadline was May 22nd, and it is December. This came out in December 17th. So they thought, how many days? May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. 7 months. This letter took 7 months to write. Where the hell is it?
Is she hiding under a thing?
This paper right here, that, I mean, it's long. And they list sources. I mean, they did it. They were pretty thorough. 70 pages. 10 pages a month. I wrote 10 pages a month. So, yeah, if I wrote 10 pages a month, I probably wouldn't get anywhere, but then again. Yeah. And speaking of writing 10 pages a month, totally didn't plan this, but I am going to be starting a Kratom review YouTube channel. And I just wanted to let you know if you would like to join it.
Don't you know?
This is going to be like the only time I mention it, by the way, so.
It will not.
Totally will.
We're totally going to talk about this shit.
Yeah. Probably not. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, give me my URL. Oh, shit. I don't have a channel URL. Well, for now, it will be, why didn't I get a URL? I was supposed to be allowed to do that. I'm guessing if I do this, but let me get to my channel. This is the channel for right now. There's nothing on there, but this is the future Kratom reviews. We'll have absolutely no affiliation with NDCC. It's just me. Or, not NDCC. We are not affiliated with NDCC. I'm sorry. With Canna-Talk ND, as far as like me and Greg don't like work on this one together, but I work on this one with Greg. So, digging myself a hole here. What I'm trying to say is, this is my personal YouTube channel that I will be doing Kratom reviews on. So if you guys haven't tried Kratom before, and you have like either an issue with opiates, or you have pain, and you tried opiates before or are currently prescribed opiates, super highly recommend trying at least once, it's not for everybody, trying at least once Kratom. It's legal in North Dakota, in most states, other than 3 of them. It's very helpful for pain. It's essentially a herbal opioid. It acts on your opioid receptors. However, one major difference, and it's scientifically proven as well, that it doesn't suppress your breathing. So a lot of people who overdose on opioids, it's because it suppresses your respiratory system, like your actual brain activity of breathing in. It doesn't do that. It works on the same receptors, but it doesn't actually aim for the receptor that is responsible for the breathing. You can get them pretty cheap. This is a brand that I use, but most smoke shops have it. If you try it and you like it, highly recommend going online for it, just because smoke shops don't have the best quality. So you'll notice that you need a lot less of it if you buy it online. It's more fresh. So, yeah.
I agree. I take it daily myself, and it's been a game changer in terms of dealing with anxiety and pain management.
Yeah. I'm actually considering. I had this ready before the show. Also, there's different ways of taking it. I might as well do it while I'm doing this. Many different ways.
Capsule press.
Yep. Capsules is one way. That's the most popular for starting. Super recommend capsules. Anytime I've recommended it to somebody, that's what I usually give them first. You don't need to buy a capsule machine. It's a lot better if you take it on a constant basis to have a capsule machine. But you can go to your local health food store. You can buy it online too. Bunch of capsules. You just pour it out into like a Tupperware. You basically pack it in with your finger and you cap it. But the capsule machine is much better if you are like going to be actively taking it. You don't have to take it every day or all day or anything like that. High pain days if you plan to do it that way. Yeah, it helps me for depression. That's my biggest one. Creativity. A lot of my creativity comes from just being on Kratom all day. And I don't know why a stream thing is double posting, but cool. There's 2 links there.
Yeah.
And another way is to just some people just take it. It happened again. What the hell? Anyway, you scoop it into like a spoon. 3 to 4 grams is what I recommend at first. But a lot of people say 2 if it's like super fresh shit. 3 to 4 is what I recommend, and yeah, 3 or 4 grams. So scales help. But if you want a approximation, 1 teaspoon is approximately 3.5 to 4 grams if it's packed. And some people just drop it in their mouth and drink.
I really don't recommend that, especially if you have a sensitive stomach.
Or if it's your first time, because it's very what's it, aquaphobic, I think is it. I know it's phobic.
Aquaphobic.
Yeah, so it's afraid of
water. Or
hydrophobic, yeah. It's very hydrophobic, so it comes in clumps. So what I do is this is like the easiest way.
I got this.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Cold water.
Let me fix this. Oh. Yeah, you go ahead.
So cold water is the best when it comes to this way, just because it numbs your throat. And depending on the grind of different kratom, that's kind of what really makes a difference between if you enjoy drinking it or not. But ice cold water really helps a lot. Or you can use hot water. You can make a tea with it. But you drop it in. I am going to turn this thing off because it is freaking out on me. Chat YouTube. There we go.
Take a scoop, pop it in your mouth, and push it back to the water.
Yeah, you got quiet for some reason. What the hell? I think you're like. I think Skype is like auto.
Probably.
Playing. Anyway, yeah. So just couple capsules in, drink it. But if you put it ice cold water in, you mix it up, you let it like get wet like this. You mix it up like crazy, so you get all the stuff in the water, and then you chug.
What I got going on here is I order capsules, and you take the bottom half, the longer one, drop it in here, 100 at a time. You put the top part in this bad boy, and then those top caps, This thing
Yeah.
sits on top, so it keeps them in, and you can flip it upside down. Then after you pack it in with this guy, then you can put this on top, press it down.
Right. Yeah.
I'm showing the people's Phil.
Yeah, there's that. Or if you have a coffee maker, like not a Keurig, like just a generic ass coffee maker, grab a coffee filter, grab a couple, put it in like you're making coffee, put your kratom. That one I would do 1.5 times the normal that you take. So if you take like 4 grams, or this is your first time, put like 5 or 6. Put that in there. Flip the thing out. So like on those coffee makers, the thing flips out and there's a little nipple on the bottom that when you put the carafe in, it pushes up on the nipple, and that's the reason why the water comes out. It's like a little valve.
It's like a valve, yeah.
So you put that in there, you pour hot water into it, let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes, add some lemon juice, because it will A, help with the flavor, and B, help with the extraction. Let it sit for 15-20 minutes, stir it up, put the carafe in, close it, and let it drip. And there you go. You got a thing of hot kratom. And it's actually not bad. Hot is actually really good. Throw some lemon in, or lemon and honey, and you got a pretty good time. So super highly recommend that. Yeah, if you guys want to subscribe to the channel, I don't know. This is at the end, so chances are nobody's here. But
if anybody watches, if you have any questions about kratom or the Delta 8 that we've been talking about, whatever, feel free to reach out to us.
All right. And yeah, that's all I got. If you like this video, make sure I have not updated the script one single bit, dude. Oh, I still have. Make sure to check us out on YouTube. Huh?
I said, how many times have we done this?
Right. So yeah, make sure to hit the subscribe button. The like button really does help us out a lot, so hit that. Yeah, check us out on Facebook. We're gonna reverse this one. Check us out on Facebook, Canna-Talk ND on Facebook. And I just got a great idea. We should have facebook.cannatalknd.com to go to Facebook.
Okay, that's doable.
Yeah. I just have to like add the entry, but whatever. Cannatalknd.com will actually take you to our YouTube channel. So, yeah. So check us out on Facebook, Canna-Talk ND, with Greg, I think is the Facebook page. Either way. So yeah, if you like the show and you want more, make sure to check us out. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson on 95.9, which is on Radio Free Fargo every Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m. But if you're not in the Fargo-Moorhead area, check us out on the streaming platform of your choice. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, those have been the favorite ones. We had somebody on Breaker. I think we lost our Breaker viewer. I'm very, very sad. Saddened by this news. But just the podcasting platforms have been the absolute best grower when it comes to when our YouTube channel was fucked from the age gate. We got a lot of traffic from podcasting platforms. Like, it saved our ass. So, yeah. Because if you, like, lose momentum for a while, you basically start at 0. So, yeah. And now that the age gate is gone, everything's great. Searchability has been actually up. So, yeah. YouTube is saying so we. But yeah, check us out. Yeah, my name is Phil.
I'm Anthony.
And this has been Canna-heads. We will see you guys next week at on Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Yeah. And before I go into this, the name of the song, if you were interested, I probably should shout this out. It's probably going in the description later. Forgot About Dre, but it's not by Eminem and Dr. Dre. It's actually by a band called From Ashes to New, which is actually like one of my favorite bands. That's the reason why I like them. They do cover bands, but they also do their own. Check them out if you really like this type of music. They do covers, but they also do their own original stuff. So they're very like Linkin Park-ish, but like heavier. Like Asking Alexandria, but like a little bit less heavy. So, bye-bye.
Bye.
Y'all know me, still the same OG, but I've been low-key. Hated on by most these jokers with no cheese, no deals and no G's, no wheels and no keys, no boats, no snowmobiles and no skis. Mad at me cause I can finally afford to provide my family with groceries. Got a crib with a studio, but it's all full of tracks to add to the wall full of plaques.